I'm writing another book called Letters to Myself. It's about writing to yourself. Yeah.
The first line of one of my songs is called "I wrote a letter." It's called "Future Self," and it starts, "I wrote a letter to myself."
No way.
Literally, I wrote a letter to myself. Yeah, that's weird that you just said that. That's literally the opening line of the second single from the new album. Yeah,
we are
so same page.
Same page, babe.
We're in tune.
We are. When I talk about the music industry back then, what's the first kind of thing that comes to your mind in terms of how it was, how you felt?
Grew up in the 80s, and like my heart is in like, you know, Go West, Level 42, like I say, Omar, These
Go
Eyes,
West.
George Michael. Like that was my love of music.
Yeah.
As far as like being part of a crew and a squad, like say Beverly, Terry, Kelly Rock, Lemar, that time for me, I think was like the pinnacle of UK soul.
What would be the message for someone that's starting off, maybe not in music, but certainly starting off in a journey of creativity that doesn't feel that they can be themselves yet?
I think, you know, do your research. You know, when I was growing up, like I would look at the CD sleeve and I'd be like, right, who A&R'd this? Who played bass? Who wrote it? Like I literally did my research, and I've actually got to work with some of the people that I actually researched about when I was 16, 17 years old. Like I'm very blessed in that respect.
Brilliant.
But I knew who I was going for.
Yeah.
I knew who I was looking for.
Yeah.
And I think like, you know, whether you're a producer or, I mean, in whatever capacity, in whatever industry you're in, you know, just know your shit and then apply that knowledge, and, you know, soak in like a sponge everything around you and the people around you. And like I said earlier, when you arrive.
Today we have the phenomenal Nate James on the show. And I was just dropping some names before we started. If you were around at the same time I was, which I'm assuming most of you were, you'll remember Nate James for his R&B pop flavours. He was out and about at the same time as the likes of Beverly Knight, Shola Ama, Kelly LaRock, Terry Walker, Lyndon David Hall, that many of you remember. We had a really beautiful time of R&B in the sort of late 90s, early 2000s, and Nate was part of that pack. And it was a different time for music. But not only that, it was a very different time for you.
Yeah.
Your story is quite phenomenal because you've been able to, let's say, meet the real version of yourself in recent years and embrace so many extra parts of you, I think, but also bringing with you quite a rich heritage of the music industry in Britain and kind of the combination of where you were then and what you've done since is, for me, quite interesting. And I love the fact that what you've done with it is you've kind of, I don't want to overstate this, but maybe intellectualized your experience, which we'll find out about in a minute. So tell me, Nate, when I talk about the music industry back then, what's the first kind of thing that comes to your mind in terms of how it was, how you felt?
I mean, I think that, you know, it was 2000, when was my first single? Set the Tone was 2004. And it was, like you say, it was just a great era for UK soul music. Yeah. I mean, you know, we already had Omar.
Yes.
And Misha Paris. And
of course.
You know, we had like the Godfather and Godman, that's what I call them. And obviously Beverly as well. You know, Beverly was the first ever artist to ask me to be a special guest.
Aww.
So I performed with her, I think it's Rochester Castle.
Can I just pause there? And I've been telling everybody this since I met Beverly.
Yeah.
She is the most angelic human being I've ever
wonderful.
met. I've got to say that. I literally tell everybody, to the point where she may get the police onto me because I'm constantly telling people how amazing she is. But I've never met a more beautiful, gorgeous, angelic, godlike human being. I'm not trying to put her on a pedestal.
No.
She just is delivered by the angels.
Yeah, she is a wonderful soul. Her and James are just the most perfect pairing. The way they support each other, they're both great.
They're great. And that's James, who's been on the podcast as well. Hence the reason you're here, actually.
Yeah, I saw James and I was like, I want to go on this. Let me just drop a little message and say, hi, babe, can I come and have a little chat? No, but that era, I think, like, for me, like, I'm 79 born and, like, grew up in the 80s, and, like, my heart is in, like, you know, Go West, Level 42, like I say, Omar, These
Go
Eyes,
West.
George Michael, like, that was my love of music.
Yeah.
As far as, like, being part of a crew and a squad, like, say, Beverly, Terry, Kelly Rock, Shola Ama, that time for me, I think, was, like, the pinnacle of UK soul.
Yeah.
Like, the UK industry was supporting soul music.
It was.
I don't feel. I say it's not so much now, but I don't know if there's enough artists now, and I don't mean that negatively.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of amazing R&B and soul artists out there, but are they getting the push and the props they deserve? I don't think they are.
I mean, maybe I'm just not in the cool gang anymore, but I can't really think of anyone.
I think like R&B has kind of like come up a lot more.
Yeah.
But obviously I feel, to me, R&B and soul is the same thing.
Yeah.
But I think you've got your staple soul, which would be like your Omar, your Raphael Sadiq, your Maxwell's, and your R&B is more like your, like the Flow Girls, just released an album, Flow, Usher, Neo, that's, do you know what I mean? So I feel like but to me, as long as it's a great song and I see someone dancing, having a great time, and do you know what I mean? I feel what they're singing, then I'm just like, it's soul.
Yeah.
But no, I was definitely part of, I think, that kind of like heyday of soul music.
You were. And as I said to you, when you messaged and I messaged back, I was like, oh, I do know who you are. I remember the time well.
And the afro.
The afro, of course. And then there came Rose as well. Yeah. And you had that beautiful style of that time. And, obviously a good looking guy and all of that stuff. Thanks. Well, that's kind of the way it works, isn't it? People notice you for the right reasons and sometimes the wrong reasons, but in your case, the right reasons. But what I said to you before we started was I remember the culture of the time as well, the videos and all of those. There was a look.
Yeah.
But you were kind of in a zone of, I guess there might have been assumptions made about you and an image that was delivered that now you've kind of stepped away from, and not because it wasn't the right image, because it wasn't the right version of you, perhaps.
It wasn't me,
yeah. And so very recently, I suppose in the last 5 to 6, 7, 8 years maybe, you wrote a song, and tell me about that. 2017.
So I was lucky enough to receive a bit of a windfall in royalties, which from my Italian Collection Society, they called me up. They're like, Nate, you've got like X amount of money in your account. We didn't know it was there. We're going to send it over immediately. And I was like, oh, great. Do you know what I mean?
Who doesn't want that call?
Score. And I'd always wanted to go to Nashville because I know it's just such a mecca for music in general.
Yeah.
So I spoke to my then manager, Vivian, and said, right, I'm coming to the US. I want to do like a week in Nashville, a week in New York, a week in LA. Like, can we get some connections? Can we get some writing sessions in? So I went to Nashville and I met up with a guy called Shannon Sanders, and he is like India RE's keys player and MD. He's played like, he's just like, he's from the church. He's from gospel music. And he just has all of these fingers in all the soul and R&B pies. So I said to Vivian, I was like, I really want to work with him.
Oh my God.
And we met for a coffee and what was it, a grilled cheese sandwich, I think. And we hit it off. And next thing I knew, we were in the studio. And he was like, what do you want to write about? And I've been toying with this idea. I don't really agree or feel that people need to define themselves and have a label and put themselves into a box. We spoke about this earlier. But I wanted to write a song saying, I'm gay. But not saying the words, I am gay.
No, that would be a great song. I'm gay.
Just there with a feather boa and rainbow umbrella, whatever. Anyway, so I wanted to write a song and it was in my skin. And, it, the whole idea of it is like, we are told, we are programmed to love a certain someone, to live a certain way. And it was just all these, it was literally like, and it's not from my parents or from my family or there's been my family and my friends are like my rocks. They are like solid. No one's ever told me how to be. I think it was more, the media and society in general kind of imposing these heteronormative kind of, do you know what I mean? Like the way you should be if you're Black, if you're a soul singer and you're in any country.
I definitely think that's the thing.
And it's not so much stated, it's maybe suggested, it's like leaned on a bit, and I was like, I just want to write a song saying I'm comfortable in my skin. This is who I am. But I wrote it in a way that I feel like, people listening to it now, you can relate that to yourself. I wrote it about my sexuality, but whether you have issues with your body or your appearance, whatever it might be, like I feel it's so important now to understand who you are and to be happy in your skin. And that's so the song still kind of sits now. And I heard it the other day. It came on shuffle. Honestly, I didn't choose to play it. It came on shuffle. I don't listen to myself that often.
I don't either.
But it came on, and I was just like, oh, And I use it in my stories and like certain things I post on Instagram or any other social media platform. Like, I just think it's such an empowering song. And I thought, what I could do, I spoke to like Gay Times and Attitude and like the magazines, and I was like, I don't want to do press. I'm a songwriter. So I want to like get this out of my system in song, because that's what I do.
And ultimately, I think that's the only way to do it, because you hold that narrative then. Nobody else controls it for you. And I think that is the problem with a lot of the media, isn't it? And certainly mainstream media now as well. It kind of tells the version of the story that they want to tell, not yours. Yeah. So what more of a beautiful way to express yourself than through something artistic and creative? And I think that kind of leans into the type of person that you are as well, is that you're able to really delve deeper, maybe. And I mentioned the sort of the intellectualizing of your own experience for a reason, because you've written a book.
I'm almost finished it, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
almost
writing
finished
it. Yeah,
writing the book.
Yeah.
And the book, I suppose, is very much a drive to tell not only your truth, but I suppose also to explain from a broader perspective some of the experiences that you've had, and relatable to other people as well. So what made you want to do the book?
I kind of fell into it. It kind of fell to me. So I did my master's degree at Westminster, and I did my thesis only a couple of years ago. I graduated last November.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I did my thesis on, it was called His Story of Queerness in Music, and it was the subtitle was how society and mass media opinion affects the existence and representation of gay and queer male artists. I couldn't write about everyone because it's just too big.
Yeah.
And I only had 12,000 words. And I got a first.
Wow.
So I was like, boss that.
That's incredible.
And given the last essay I wrote was when I was 18 at A-level, I didn't do a degree. I jumped straight to masters. So it was hard, but it was great.
I hear this.
So I did that. And then I think just the amount of, obviously it consumes you, the amount of research you have to do. And, I just took a full head on dive into all this literature and all this research about, people. I mean, Freddie Mercury never came out as gay. We knew he was.
I know.
He never came out. George didn't want to come out because his mum was so afraid of the whole AIDS stigma, which we'll probably get into later on. And it's just, I just found out all these things, and I was like, oh my God, that happened to me. I went through that. And I just like, so it was much like finding out who my forefathers were in the gay world, I guess.
Yeah.
But also finding out more and more about myself. And then I was basically DJing at a members club in London, and I was out on the balcony. It was a lovely sunny day. And I was just started chatting with this woman, and she was just like, so I'm a literary agent, and what you've just told me about what you've been up to as of late, she goes, I think you should write a book about this, and I'd like to sign you and be your agent. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
where's the magic sparkles?
Thanks. Literally. And Morwenna, she's incredible. Do you know what the great thing about her is? There's no pressure, because it's it's basically a biography, but it's also, relating it to the backdrop of my academic research and also what's going on in the media as well.
Fantastic.
So it's, and it's been a real soul searching process for me. I mean, I literally wrote a chapter about my kind of beginnings as a young gay. And I was on the train and I was just in tears. Not necessarily sad tears, but I guess I just buried all these emotions and these things that I thought and felt from, a long time ago.
Yeah.
And was just dragging it all back up again.
Yeah.
And reliving it. And I just sort of gave myself a metaphoric pat on the back. I was like, you made it, and you're all right. That kind of feeling. So yeah, the book is, each chapter is named after a famous gay or queer song, and also my music as well. It's like stuff from the new album. Like the chapter about me and Jared, my other half, is called Cosmic Rider, because I wrote this song when we met the first time. We broke up, and during that break, I wrote a song about us being two stars and how the universe is meant to. Yeah. Trust me, this ring that I'm wearing, I got these made by a friend of mine. This is the sound wave of Cosmic Rider, the chorus, and I gave this to him on our 6-month anniversary.
I'm literally going to cry. Stop doing this.
So yeah, like, do you know what? Each chapter, and the interesting thing is one chapter called Fast Love by George Michael, and it's about hookup culture. Because as a gay man, like, I was part of that for a period of time in my single years, and it was, on Grindr, on this, on the apps, doing, late night, misbehaving and so on. And I called my mum and I was like, you need to understand, right? There's a chapter in this book that's, I didn't go into too much detail because that doesn't need to be.
No.
But it was like, it's part of me. it's part of my journey.
Yeah.
And she went, me and your father were promiscuous as fuck when we were younger. And I was like, do you know what, Mum? I love you for that. And it literally just said, so I was like, and literally that chapter, I was procrastinating for so long to sit down. And again, like, you know, it was a wonderful experience and experimental time for me, but it was quite dark.
Yeah, I do know people that are still in that phase.
Yeah.
And
it's part of gay culture.
It is
something that's ongoing, and, you know, some people find love there.
Yes.
I think I looked in the wrong place for love. And that, you know what I mean? I thought I would find my prince through an app.
Yeah.
It does happen.
It does happen,
just not for me.
Yeah. I think that, look, you've got to be the stars have aligned if that happens.
100%.
Yeah. And sometimes they do, but mostly I think it's fair to say they don't. And that's okay, because, you know, all experience is part of what you're as part of what you're supposed to experience. All experience, good, bad, ugly, whatever. And actually it's the ugly bits that make us the most beautiful in the end. So I think the sad part about that culture is this new chemsex thing, which I say new, we're just talking about it as though it's new. And I suppose this is not with judgment at all, there's a worry that if you're a young gay guy coming up and this is your first real experience of, you know, that kind of world, it could be quite detrimental long term. We've got to be really aware of that. But I also say choice is choice, and if you're actively choosing that route and you genuinely feel that's the right thing for you, then there should be no judgment. I would say just support for when you realise that perhaps that's not been the ideal experience. And it's a funny one, because I think probably there's not enough, if you're going to say hetero spaces, talking about that experience for gay guys. And actually we need to, because there are brothers, there are friends, there are sons, and I think everybody should be more informed about those particular topics, which most people go, well, I'm not gay, it's got nothing to do with me. It kind of has. And I think we all need to be aware of it, even if you don't think your son's gay, which is fine. Maybe they're not, but what if they are? Maybe you do need to be aware of it.
I think, you know, again, that whole hookup culture, like the chemsex thing, like, you know, it was part and parcel. You know? But I think that it's interesting. Again, I did research about this, and it's like, is that a real connection and a real experience if you're not sober? And I'm not saying that you should be sober and that you can't have these, you know, amazing like moments with someone when you're high or you're sober, but like, it's really interesting when I was reading up about this for the Fast Love chapter, and I was like, that's a really interesting question. Like, was that a real moment, or was it just what you were on that created that euphoric, do you know what I mean? Like, was it the sex, or was it the other? You know what I mean? Like,
it's a very interesting point, and I hate to go too deep on it, because we don't want to spend the whole time talking about this. Obviously there's much more to your story, but as we're there, just for the listeners that perhaps don't understand what we're talking about, there's particular, is it GHB, and there's another one that you can mix with it. What is it Mandy, that they can sometimes mix together?
I've not done either, but I think you're talking about crystal meth and GHB.
So I think that's a common thing that I'm hearing about.
The two, commonly found.
So my thing is it's both quite worrying, really, that's the mix that they're using. But I also think that your world is whatever you think it is. So if you believe that and this is the dangerous thing, if you believe that's connection, then you're going to keep doing it. And it's only when you have a real connection, which will lean into your lovely relationship, that you actually experience something totally different.
I think as well, it's important to say now, like, as much as like GHB and crystal meth, or Tina as it's called as well, I think it's important to recognize that as much as it's worrying substances, any substance is worrying.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think like there's always been this kind of people have an opinion of like what's a good drug and what's not a good drug.
You're right.
A drug's a drug.
Like
regardless of how you're getting your kicks, you're getting your kicks.
Yeah.
So I think it's like people shouldn't really, I'm not saying we are, but like people shouldn't really judge what someone's taken to get their jollies.
It's the behaviour itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the reasons beyond that. And actually you're right, because if you look at the world of psychedelics, it gets talked about a lot as though it's a positive.
I know. I had this most amazing trip, dude. And I'm like,
I know you want to see the people that don't have an amazing trip. I mean, I work with people that have got PTSD from a trip they had, and we have to now unravel this psychedelic experience they've had. The only time to do psychedelics, if you're doing it for trauma, is actually within a clinic where there's psychotherapists, doctors, and it's managed in a very clinical way.
It's a safe space, and
I just don't believe this whole new trend. It's like, again, just to heighten that point, there's no such thing as good and bad. Like, it's you as a person and your behavior that needs
100%.
to be looked at. So so the book Fast Love, the chapter, was very much about the darker side.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm an adventurer, you know, and I think in my single years, like I really kind of explored myself and found out things about myself. What I did like, what I didn't like, you know, and but I think this is really good. It's a really good thing for anyone to do.
Absolutely.
Not just, you know, in the sense of sex or, you know, fun and games, but like, I think that exploration is really important to finding out who you are.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah,
I mean,
you know,
as a therapist, I encourage you.
Here we go. So yeah, no, that chapter was tough, but no, the book is going to be out next summer, along with the new album, the anniversary album, and documentary. There's a lot of stuff going on.
I mean, that's going to be a busy time.
Yeah,
mind you, you're never not busy by the sounds of it.
No, I am a Virgo, and I thrive on being busy and being organized, and I like to have things to look forward to as well.
And I think really as a creative, it's important to have things to look forward to, because your creativity needs to go somewhere. It needs to have a place to land.
Yeah, I think as creatives, you know, I mean, we just spend so much time worrying about validation.
Yeah.
You know, we literally live to be validated.
Yeah.
We release a song, how many likes it got, how many streams it got. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's exhausting. So I think, like, if you can plan these little moments of joy along the journey, the focus shifts and you don't have to worry about. I mean, I'm going to release this new album. It's my first album in 14 years, and it's my most honest work. There's no, I'm having to say girl or baby or whatever. Like, it's just me writing about the past 14 years of my life. And if you like it, great. If you don't, that's fine. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I definitely
I'm proud of it. My mum and dad have heard it. My other half's heard it. My brothers, like, my friends have heard it. And they're all just like, this is epic. And I'm like, thank you.
And it gives, I think the most important thing is it gives kids now. I mean, my daughter's 17 and she really loves the old school soul, R&B and all of that. She's really, really loves it. And it's nice. I mean, she's got a very eclectic taste, but like I said, I was watching some of your old videos on YouTube, and I was sort of saying, oh, this is Nate James. And I was saying a bit about the music tour. And I think when you're releasing new stuff, it gives the younger kids an opportunity to, because I always did that. I always looked back for music. I'm sure you did, you know, and Nile Rodgers I'm a massive fan of.
Yeah, and he's still going and still making bangers.
I know. I mean,
Left,
what a
right,
legend.
Center,
legend. And it's produced on almost every song you'll have ever heard. And so, you know, it's people like that I think, and the Beatles, obviously, there's always a space for. I was never a massive Beatles fan growing up, but then the more I hear their later music that went a little bit, you know, creative and all of that stuff, you just go, wow, there was so much richness. And I think, again, this is why it's good to release music 20 years later, because we then rediscover who you are. Speaking of rediscovery, I suppose the life you live now is entirely different to 20 years ago in so many ways. I mean, you were telling me that you now live in a beautiful village overlooking mountains in Scotland, and that, you know, you've got this peace and tranquility with your partner, and your lifestyle is, well, it's like two different lives.
Yeah, I mean, I said to you earlier, like, I think when I released my first album, and, you know, it was never said to me, like, you can't come out as gay. It was implied. You know, my manager was amazing. Anthony, you know, I think he knew that I was gay, but he was just waiting for me to tell him. Yeah. And then how was he going to manage it? How was he going to obviously protect me, work with me in the situation? But I mean, for that first album run of Set the Tone from 2004 to 2000, maybe 6, 7, I was literally living two lives. I was straight and Afro soul boy, and, you know, I was friends with Amy Winehouse. So, like, people, the press would be like, oh, Nate and Amy, they're together. I'm like, no, we're not. We're just buddies. Like, we just go out drinking in Camden, have a good time.
They love all that, don't they?
Yeah, but behind closed doors, I had a boyfriend at home.
Yeah.
And in interviews, I would be like, don't fuck this up. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't trip up, because I was like, thinking what I was going to say before I said it to make sure I didn't incriminate myself. it's a horrible word to say, but like to out myself in, you know, whatever TV show or whatever magazine was there, it was exhausting.
Wow.
So now, like,
God, yeah, just you're constantly pretending to be somebody else.
It's draining. And I think, to be fair, like the line started to blur a little bit. I was like, who actually am I? Do you know what I mean? So no, now, you know, I'm out, I'm very proud, I'm very happy, engaged to a wonderful man. You know, and Jared is I say this in one of the songs I've written again, like he just loves fearlessly, you know, and he's had his own journey as well. And I think that for both of us being through what we have in the music industry and in life in general, like it's character building, and we found each other at a point where we've done all this, we've lived that, and now there's still parts of that we obviously, you know, have, you know, enjoyed together, I suppose you could say, but there's still elements of our past selves, but we are a team and we're a force to be reckoned with. And I love that I've found my person and my partner in crime, in everything. Like, you know, like I'm his biggest fan, he's my biggest fan. Like, it's a wonderful place to be. And it took me, 40 years to find that.
Wow.
You know,
and that gives hope to a lot of people that are still struggling to find their person.
Yeah, friends of mine, you know, especially some of my gay friends, have said to me, like, you and Jared give us hope, like that it can happen. And it's nice to hear that. Like, I didn't realize, you know, you don't realize when you're just living it, and, you know, you might post a picture here and there, you don't realize who is seeing you and what you're doing.
You absolutely do not.
Career wise, personal life, whatever. Like, and if me and Jared and the music I'm making and my life is inspiring someone else to feel comfortable and happy with themselves and to be authentically themselves and all that jazz, then great, that's job done.
And not only that, I think it's there's a difference between what you see on social media and what is actually going on. And the thing that I'm just getting over and over again here is, you know, when you're in that authentic space, everything aligns. The truth is the truth, and that cannot be denied. But you've had, like I said, it's like two different lives. Because you've had the opposite, where you weren't really able, or you weren't invited, let's say, to be the authentic version. You weren't stopped. And again, you've made that very clear, but there wasn't the invite to just embrace that full, you know, vibration of authenticity. Whereas now you can. And I think that's what people are drawn into, actually, is that and I always say this, when you vibrate from a place of authenticity, you're a magnet for all that is good.
I'm just noticing that, like, probably over the past, maybe 5-6 years, but it really is true.
Yeah.
When you're 100% happy in yourself and in your skin, sorry to quote my own song. But like, when you are 100%, like, you really notice a shift that happens.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. And that's why this conversation is so important.
Yeah.
Because at the root of it is about authenticity. That's the root of it.
I think as well, it's important to say, I said this when I was teaching last year as well at LCCM. This
as you do,
college, casual. I literally did my masters, and I started lecturing like the week after I handed in my thesis. I was like, I'm not a teacher, but here I am.
Wow.
But I said to my students, like, nobody's posting their failures, and I think that's a broad statement, but it's so true.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know how many pictures that person took to get that perfect shot. What filter they're using, how many singles they released before they had a #1 album. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to obviously relate it into my world a bit, but like, no one is, I mean, I try, if I'm having a shit day, I will find a quote online, just something or other, that I won't go online and cry or shout or scream or whatever. I am an emotional person, but I don't feel that people need to see that.
Yeah.
But I will definitely put something out there to verbalize what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Like saying it without saying it.
Yeah. And I think that's because that's enough sometimes.
Yeah.
Like you say, there's a line between, and you do see this sometimes on social media as well, where someone's like in bed crying and having an actual breakdown. And that's probably an overshare.
But then why do we feel like we have to share our emotions on social media? Why do we feel this obligation?
This is the other thing. It's a strange space.
Yeah.
Is you know, tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Yeah.
And that means everything. And I kind of think maybe not, because, you know, it's not the safest place to do so. But equally, try and be as honest as you can without putting other people into a position where they now feel uncomfortable about your level of honesty. Because there's not much you can do if someone's having a mental breakdown in, I don't know, the USA and they're doing it now. So, well, what do I do to help? Because then there's that sense of responsibility. But also, it can be taken, because remember, we always see people from where we're at.
Yeah.
So if you're oversharing, it can be taken either good or bad. It's kind of like understand there's a space for true release, and there's a space to just try and be a good, honest person.
Yeah. I think as well, like I put this pops in the book too. Like I didn't have, like, when I was growing up, there was Boy George, who was obviously like the psychedelic, colourful end of the spectrum, should we say. There was George Michael, who obviously wasn't out until he got outed.
Yes.
We all know that story.
Yeah.
There was Freddie Mercury. I didn't have an immediate go-to person that I could ask questions to, that I could talk to, that I could, you know, my mum and dad are wonderful. My mum knows me inside out. I mean, they both do, but like my mum, we're very, very like intertwined.
Beautiful.
And, you know, I came out to her as bi, first of all, and said, don't tell dad. Of course she did. And then I told my dad myself later down the line. But that's why I think like I am so active and vocal on my social media and my platforms in general, because again, we don't know. I'm not saying I'm going to inspire someone or affect someone one way or another, but I think that just to be someone who is openly happy and honestly themselves, I never had that growing up.
No, it's so important.
And I feel like maybe I could be that person. I remember when I released In My Skin, I had loads of parents who messaged me and DM'd me on Instagram saying that my son came out to me because of your song.
Wow. I mean,
and things like that. That's why I'm like, I wrote that song as therapy for myself, to put a message out there, to get that kind of response back. That's why I make music. You know?
And you see, you know, we say we don't want to, or we don't think we're going to inspire. That's not the goal. Maybe it should be. Yeah. Maybe if more people turned into that version, which is like, do you know what? I've got a story. And I encourage people to do this all the time, because we have that ability as humans, the connection, even these stories, right?
Yeah.
And I know that's got to you. Do you need some tissue before we carry on?
Maybe I might just blow my nose, actually.
Yeah. Let's pause. There's been a moment. We need to keep it real.
Coming back.
No, listen. True. This is what it's about. It's authentic. And that's the most important thing that we could ask for from anyone. So I'm just going to champion you. Bless you. This is what we do. We keep it real. We keep it real.
Okay.
You've had the sniffles as well, haven't you?
Oh God, I've literally been I've been fighting this. I've been fighting a cold. I think because I'm DJing so many Christmas parties, it just takes one person in that room to cough or sneeze, and that's me done.
Yeah, of course.
I think every Christmas I get ill.
Well, we all do,
just a cold. Yeah, just a cold. This is weather as well, and it's
shite weather.
You're working all hours God sends and burning the candle at both ends, as my mum says.
Well, you had a big gig. Was it Friday?
I had a concert for London Jazz Festival last weekend.
Were you well for that? Because that's when you don't want to be ill. Did it
was on fire?
Yeah. Did you get ill pretty much straight after?
No, I think I actually kicked it in the butt the day before, because I was worried at rehearsals about my voice. And then on the day, it was just like, it just came. Like, oh, there it is. But then after, what did I do the day after? I had 2 days off.
Yeah.
And I just slept.
Yeah.
Takeaways.
Yeah.
Gym. Ish. And just looked after myself. So I didn't get ill again, but I'm just feeling it a bit this past few days.
Well, yeah, because you would also, I think the fact that you're up till 3 a.m. DJing,
God,
maybe that your body is just going, oh God, we've got to get rid of the rest of whatever's in here now.
Not getting any younger.
No, well, you look honestly,
thanks,
the skin is glowing. But yeah, the reason I think it's important that you did have that watery eye moment there is because that means something. Yeah, and that was my whole point.
We said earlier on, growing up in the times that we did, we were forced to, or we decided to, we have to put ourselves into boxes and label ourselves. And I don't, I'm out as a gay man. I identify as a gay man.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you have to identify as anything.
No.
I don't feel, but there's still this pressure. And I think people in society, to understand someone, they have to put them in a box.
Yes.
So they're like, oh, they're part of that.
Yeah.
And that tribe.
Yeah.
But maybe someone could be part of all the tribes. Like I don't understand this whole labeling thing. Even though I do label myself, I feel like a hypocrite. I'm not. Like I identify as that, and I'm happy as that person.
Do you know
but
what?
not
Though?
everyone needs to do that.
No, and I think I guess it's important to a point, because say you were 20 years younger and you're in a club and a girl comes up to you and she's like, "Oh, I really like you," blah blah blah. You know, it's important for you to go, "You're an amazing woman. I'm gay."
Yeah,
that is
like
kind
of just you're fabulous.
Yeah,
that'll do it.
Yeah.
Not even saying I'm gay. Darling, you're fabulous.
Yeah.
That's end of story.
that is the answer. But no, it's important to a point. But like, obviously, I think what you're saying is the desire to overly label everything and everyone, and you know, we have to identify as this. We don't. We just have to kind of like be who you are, vibe how you vibe, and everybody who's meant to be around you will be around you. And I think that's the key.
I think as well, I've had a few kind of like, you know, just, I mean, I meet people all the time, and people feel like they want to open up to me. Sometimes it's welcome, sometimes it's not. But like, you know, oversharing. But I think it's really interesting, you know, especially with guys, when you're, you know, drunk in the pub, whatever, and you're chatting with your friend's friend or whatever, and they know I'm gay, and then they feel this desire to like say, "Oh, do you know what? I had a bit of an experiment when I was in high school," and I'm like, okay. I love that you feel comfortable enough to tell me that, but I think at the point of the evening when they've said this to me, I'm like, mate, that doesn't make you gay. It just means that you had a little fiddle when you were younger. If it's more regular fiddling, then there may be something that you want to address.
Regular fiddling.
But I just think that's really interesting because, you know, again, it's like, I mean, who hasn't had an experience of some sort? Not everyone has. It's not for everyone.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot more, like, you can talk about it.
Yeah. Like no one cares.
You kissed a girl and you liked it. That's okay. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I just think that's really interesting as well. But yeah.
Yeah, it is. And also, like, I suppose they're checking in. Like, you're a gay guy.
Yeah, let me run this one by you.
Just want your opinion.
What you think.
Yeah. I think that's it's cute, really, but also maybe not. Depends.
Yeah.
It depends on the moment.
Yeah.
But I think you're right, and I think a lot of people that would consider themselves to be heterosexual, some people are maybe like, I think I said off camera, I said when we grew up, we were gay, straight, lesbian, obviously, because you kind of didn't, I can't remember anyway, calling girls gay then. It was definitely gay, straight, lesbian, bisexual, or bi-curious.
Yep.
And bi-curious just meant that you were going through that phase of, I just want anything. I want to try it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but now there's about 400 million labels, and I think that that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you want to do that as the individual, but I think also that the kind of the older heterosexual, I know we could use cisgender and all these other terms now, but the older heterosexual person might go, yeah, but why does someone need to declare it? Because they're of a different time.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's where it gets complicated, isn't it? And we could talk about that forever. But I think the main point is, don't feel like you've got to label yourself.
No.
And also, if someone gives themselves a label and you don't like that label, you don't have to, but you also don't need to beat them down for having that.
Yeah.
So I think it's just about, really, just be nice.
Yeah.
That's
just
it.
Be kind.
Just be kind.
Yeah, that's it.
If you can do that, then we're all willing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't matter what you think, as long as you're kind about it.
Yeah.
So I think really the reason that I bring that up is because obviously the book is very centered around your experience.
Mm-hmm.
And what I don't want people to think is like, oh, it's just another book about being gay, because it really isn't.
No, I definitely am looking at one of my lecturers at uni was like, zoom in and zoom back out again.
Yeah.
Look at the central point, but zoom in, look at what's affecting that.
Yeah.
And I'm very much like zooming out, which is why it's taken me a while to do it, because I don't want to write a story about me.
No.
I want to write a story about how I'm able to be me,
Yeah.
who made that possible, and why that, you know what I mean? Like why, and what's influenced that.
Yeah.
In societies, like the shifts in opinions and people's, I mean, like, you know, I hate the word acceptance, but like, you know, it's more being anything other than straight is more understood now.
Yeah. And I think that's why, although there's a lot of movement now with obviously, you know, LGBTQIA and that movement, some people are quite angry about it, particularly the trans issue, which again, I'm not going to go into massively today. But the reason that I think that's important to highlight is that although it seems ludicrous sometimes, you know, that kids are being taught that they can identify as a cat. And I know this is the one that everyone throws out there.
Yeah.
And that might be and is to a point ludicrous. But the point is that aggravation, that disruption allows for people to have these conversations that we're having now. So, someone might say, oh, why is it someone's allowed to call themselves a cat in school? And I'll be like, well, I don't understand that part of the system. If schools are saying, yes, you are a cat, then, are you taking that out of context? Because maybe there's a whole broader conversation going on that's important there. But if you're going to hone in on that point, my point would then be, yes, that alone out of context is a divisive point, but the conversation is now being had in a way it wasn't.
Yeah.
And that's the important bit.
Yeah.
Whatever your opinion is.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think whatever we can do to add to conversation, and it goes back to connection and authenticity, it allows people to go to an authentic space.
Yeah.
And that is where you meet your people. So in terms of the music industry then, and in terms of your people, have you found that, I mean, you're a good guy and you don't generally fall out with people, I'm sure, but have you found that you're now more in a space of what feels like Nate?
You mean with the company I keep and the people I'm around?
Yeah, and the music that you're making and all of those things.
Yeah, I mean, The Man I Am, the new album, like I said before, like I'm just so proud of it. Like it's 14 songs that and people are like, oh, why have you taken so long to make an album? Like, because I've been living.
Yeah.
And, I can write to order, like when I write top lines for other projects and whatever, or other artists. But when it comes to my stuff, like, it's going to take me some time. And some things I don't want to talk about on that day.
Yeah.
But I might come back to it in a couple of weeks' time or a couple of months or a couple of years' time, whenever. I definitely feel like I am the best version of myself now.
Yeah.
And the wonderful thing is we spoke about Terry Walker and Kelly LaRock and Shola Ama. Like those gals, that tribe are still my tribe.
Beautiful. Like
no one's gone, oh, Nate, Nate's gay now. Can't really hang with him.
Yeah.
Like I think they've actually probably more embraced me more.
Yeah.
Like we fucking like, do you know what I mean? Like I was out the other day, Kelly does an event in Mayfair on a Wednesday, and I went there and sang a couple of songs with her and stuff. And I just and Terry Walker came down, and then Shingy, who was from Noisette, she came down, and it was like, oh, I was with my tribe.
Yeah.
And we hadn't seen each other in the same room for probably 10 years.
Wow.
So yeah, I definitely feel like I am thriving. And I'm very happy.
And like we said, the contrast of lifestyles, because you predominantly live in Scotland and you've got this amazing village, and it's very sort of lacking maybe in the diversity you might have had in London.
I mean, I said to you earlier on, so when I moved up to Scotland, the day I moved up and drove the van and my worldly possessions in the back of it one way, and I got out, I remember Jared's mum got a few phone calls from the neighbours saying, are you aware that there's a bald brown man going into your mum's house? And I love that because I'm like, first of all, well done, Neighbourhood Watch. You're on point. You are on the ball. But yeah, I mean, there's literally, I'm trying to think. I feel like in the village I live in, there's probably 3 or 4 of us.
Yeah.
But it's such a warm place to be.
Yeah.
The Scottish people in general are so friendly.
Yeah.
In London, if you look at someone and say good morning on the tube, they look at you like, weirdo. Do you know what I mean? But in Scotland, people say randoms. If you look at someone, make eye contact, they'll say good morning or they'll say hello.
So nice.
Not everyone, obviously.
Yeah.
But the best thing I did, I think, in recent years is move up to Scotland. I mean, me and Jared were both in London. The lockdown was looming, and both in music and entertainment, had no income, couldn't pay rent. We didn't really have a choice. And his nan sadly passed away from a fall, but she caught COVID when she went to hospital for the fall.
Oh God.
So he went home for the funeral, and I basically followed him up there to be with him and support, and I just never came back. Well, I came back for work, but I'll probably never move back into London.
Yeah.
We're talking about getting a place down south, maybe sort of Hertfordshire or just somewhere to have a base down south. But I lived in, Waterloo, I lived in Bow, I lived in Crystal Palace, I lived in Hoxton.
Yeah.
And I don't miss London. I miss my people. I miss my friends.
It's always that.
Yeah, 100%.
It's always that. I mean, I do love London, but obviously I don't live there. So I think it's easier to love it from afar.
Yeah.
And you're right. I mean, if I ever go to London and it's friendly, it's generally people that don't live in London that are the friendly ones. I'm always
so
like,
true.
You're from up north, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
You're not local.
Yeah, there's no way. But then you meet some lovely Londoners as well.
You
So
do.
I don't want to like dismiss them because
Yeah.
there's some lovely, but generally I know what you mean. It's a totally different vibe. But the fact that you can walk into a room with your old friends from that time and just be like, oh, it's still the same.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. It's always the people. It's always your community, whoever that is.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting. Again, just to come back to lockdown a little bit. I found in lockdown there were lifelong friends that I thought were going to be lifelong friends that fell by the by.
Yeah.
That ghosted me. I don't to this day know why. Like literally, I'm not going to name names, but like there's some people that kind of excuse me, sorry.
He's so poorly.
There we go. Yeah, during lockdown, there was some people that fell by the by, and I'm like, my door is open.
Yeah.
You can walk through it, or you can walk out of it.
Yeah.
And I've learned to be that and learned to let go.
Yeah.
Which was tough for me because when I love hard, and I mean that as in friendships and romance and all. Like I love.
You give it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there were people during lockdown that became family.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Like people who were acquaintances, but they would check in on me. Like, how are you and Jared doing in Scotland?
Yeah.
We miss you. And I'm, in my head, I'm like, well, I miss you too. But also, if I was living in London, it'd be more frustrating with you around the corner from my apartment.
Yeah.
Not being able to see you.
Yes.
So there's no diff. But I found that really interesting that people that I've been friends with for years, just kind of not a lot, just a select few, but like, and I'm just like, you know what, that's fine.
Do you know what's really interesting about that is I think we go through life and sometimes we have this certainty of what our lives look like and who's going to be there.
Yeah.
Be it romantic partners, be it family, be it friends.
We have a plan, don't we?
We have a plan.
Yeah.
We have an expectation. There lies the problem. And then when that expectation isn't met, I'm not saying this in your case, but a lot of people, they're like, oh, I can't cope now because my whole life was based on this story.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying earlier.
It's imploded. Like, it's all gone wrong.
Who am I going to be? And actually what I found now at 46 is some of the friends I've got now that are newer friends from maybe 5-6 years ago. I'm like, I'm so glad to have you lot in my life, even if like they might live on the other side of the world, but the conversation when we have it is so rich and so beautiful.
And you pick up where you left off.
Yeah.
I love that.
Me
my
too.
My friends from high school some of them came to my show last week. And when I go home, like it could be any amount of years.
Yeah.
And we pick up like we're in the school playground.
Yeah.
And we're, or having a cheeky cigarette behind the bike, or whatever it might be. But like, you just pick up where you left off, and that's your people, right?
That is
I just
your people.
love them.
That is your
so
people.
Much.
And I think, to add to that, not to make it very depressing or anything, but you never know how long your friends are going to be here for.
True.
You never know. And I lost a friend exactly like that, Susie. I talk about her all the time on this podcast, and I don't care. I unashamedly talk about her. Yeah, because for me, it's the best way. The more people that hear her name, the better for me, because she was the most amazing person. And she was she was creative. She was a musician. She was a singer. And she was never around because she was always here, there and everywhere. But she said it. Those that listen to this regularly will have heard me say this before. She lived 30 lives in one. She had a lot of sex.
Love it.
She did life.
Susie got hers. We love that for her.
Yes, she did. Yeah. She was so profoundly different, beautiful and everything. And every time there was a gap, we'd get together and it was like the first time, that we'd seen each other, and it was beautiful. And she went very suddenly and very quickly. But I kind of haven't grieved the way I thought I would, because I'm so grateful for her then and for her now, because she is in that I thought we'd be together at 85. And the fact that she kind of went the way she did, it taught me so much about life. Never take anything for granted. Never take anyone, any moment, any opportunity for granted, because you do not know.
Absolutely.
And so that beautiful relationship that you build with anyone, cherish it, even if it's only for 10 minutes, because it's so valuable.
Make it the best 10 minutes ever.
Yeah, exactly. And always think, if you can, even on the bad days, think about those moments that were a little bit of magic in your life. And I feel like your whole book, album, project, documentary, I think that is you really embracing the magic of your life and saying, this is where I am now and this is the moment. Cherish it. And then obviously there'll be the next chapter or even the next book, whichever way you want to look at it. And I think there's so much to be said for documenting. When the Queen died, there was a documentary I watched, and she'd obviously kept journals. And I think they have to, as the royals, they have to keep these journals for history.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, why don't we all do that? I know some people journal, but they don't necessarily journal in that very sort of historical way where it's documented. Your book is basically part of that.
Yeah.
And it's part of that, the people that may want to, you might be family or friends, understand you a little bit better. They'll always have something.
Yeah.
They'll always have your face in the digital world, but they'll have your story, they'll have your music. That kind of means you live forever.
It's my legacy.
Yeah, it is.
No, yeah. I mean, I actually hadn't thought about it that way. I mean, I literally, like I say, when I finished my master's, and I literally was like, right, I need to take a break. That didn't happen.
Yeah. You went teaching instead.
Yeah. But I finished teaching in, I think it was August of this year. And I was like, right, I want to spend the last quarter of this year, not as in like a selfish thing. Well, actually, no, selfish.
Yeah, good.
Focusing on me and what I need to get done.
Good.
Like, I've given a year to this, and I've taught some amazing students, and I've made some very good friends, and I've got a great experience now of teaching. And I mean, I'm not a teacher, but I've lived some stuff.
You are a teacher. That's where you're wrong.
There you go. Yeah. But now I've literally, the album, I finished the vocals off 2-3 weeks ago now. So that's all done. And then the book's next. The movie, I've got like a documentary day with my friend Paul, who I'm making the movie with in a couple of weeks. In fact, next Friday.
Fab.
So like, I'm on target for sitting back with a glass of bubbles on Christmas Day and going, I've pretty much done it. And then, but then is the work starts in January, February to shop it, to market it, to distribute it, and all that stuff. So I'm really going to enjoy my Christmas break. My parents are coming over as well from Florida.
Oh, lovely.
They're flying over. Well,
do they live there?
Yeah, they retired. They retired to the sunshine.
Oh my god!
So yeah, my brother's in Amsterdam with his wife and kids. And my beautiful nieces, I love them so much. And their mum and dad are in Florida. And the plan is they're all going to descend on Scotland for a period of time over Christmas.
I mean, that's a film in itself, surely. You need your documentary maker there.
Like, it's not Home Alone, because that was not, no, yeah. It's basically just going to be a beautiful Christmas movie, and hopefully it'll snow as well because it's Scotland. So I'm very much looking forward to this.
Actually, so jealous.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I'm having a very boring one in comparison, but hey ho.
I love it.
Okay, so kind of to ask a few questions about music in particular, particularly your musical influences then and now. Okay. Like, who are the people? Because this is the bit that's kind of exciting, talking about, who you like and what's influenced you. So if you go back to the early 80s, the music, you mentioned Go West, by the way. I love Go West. Cheese on toast, yes, but whatever.
100%.
I love, honestly, Peter Cox. What a voice.
Cracking music.
What a voice. I've seen him live, and I'm telling you, it doesn't disappoint.
No,
even
amazing.
now. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'd love to get Peter Cox on this, just putting it out there to the universe. Please.
Just saying.
I don't think he'll say yes, though, unfortunately. So never mind.
Where has he been?
Well, I think
I need that voice back.
I know. I follow him on Instagram. I think he's always gigging.
Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah, this is because you've overused your voice.
Froggy.
So Peter Cox, carry on.
Influence. Well, we've got Stevie on my arm,
of course.
So I mean, I designed this. It's got 5 different Stevies in the glasses.
Oh wow!
A friend of mine, Marco, he did this. He's an Italian friend of mine.
Beautiful.
I mean, I grew up in a very musical household. My dad is from North Carolina in the USA. My mum is English Irish, and so my dad they both did. But my dad more so bought that Motown, Jackson 5, Marvin Gaye, Stevie, Luther, Prince, Michael Jackson. Like, I mean, Luther
Vandross, my favourite of all time, by the way.
Yeah, same. Me and Jared too, same.
Yeah.
And then my mum was obsessed with Simply Red.
Oh, God, I love Simply Red.
She was. I think she actually quite fancied him, and that's
that's a weird crush, actually. But I get it.
It's a really funny, like an ongoing family joke. She's like, that Mick Hucknall, and I actually supported Mick on tour in Europe.
Sorry.
Yeah, I supported
just
Simply
the big
Red.
bombs now.
Just saying. And I flew my mum and my brother and my dad. His mum and brother are born on the same day, 30 years apart. So I flew all 3 of them over to Italy for a birthday present, to come to the concert, to meet Mick. Like, honestly, I think it's really, my mum and dad have been married 47 years, right? in a 47-year marriage, you never actually think that your wife is going to meet her crush. Do you know what I mean? My dad's 6'5", Black American man. Like, he was not threatened at all by this, this ginger Mancunian man. Do you know what I mean? Like, there was no issue there. But it was just, so yeah, basically mum and dad just brought me up this beautiful household. Mum lost her absolute shit when she obviously met Mick.
She's never recovered.
But no, so mum sort of bought, the Simply Red, the Lisa Stansfield.
Oh, God, Lisa.
Oh, love a little bit of Lisa from Rochdale. Is it Rochdale?
I think it is, yeah.
I love her. So I think that was like the stem, I guess, the core artist. And then as I grew up, like I loved Level 42 and like I say, Go West.
Genius.
And then, late 90s R&B, obsessed.
Yeah.
So, Drew Hill, Cisco, Usher, Tevin Campbell, like all these more so US artists. I think Maxwell's entire catalogue got me through. I was an art student. I did BTEC in art and design, screen printer as well. I'm a screen printer before I did music.
Just throw that in there.
But literally, like, my screen printing, like, final project was actually a project called Memories, and I've still got it at home. I'm going to hang it up. We just literally bought the flat, which is decorating now, but it's 9 images, screen printed on metal and on paper and on wood. And like, one of the images is my grandfather on my dad's side. I only met him twice because they lived in America. So the image is really faded. All you can see is a black silhouette with this Panama hat and a cigarette.
Oh, wow.
I can't remember his face. But then my mum and dad, when I was born, is a really clear, like, mum and dad are really clear. So the idea is, like, the more clear the image, the more vivid the memory is.
You're so clever.
Well, so where was I going with this?
The
music. So yeah, so basically, like, mum and dad, so through my college years, I was obsessed with Maxwell, D'Angelo, Erykah Badu, that whole neo soul movement. And I think that, if you listen to my Set the Tone, the first album, like, there's elements of all these artists in there.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, the message is very kind of Earth, Wind and Fire, September.
Yeah.
Universal's very Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
It wasn't the intention to do that, but I feel like even now, like, any artist you listen to, there's elements of someone else in there. It's not sampled, it's not copied, it's just,
but you can't help it.
Exactly.
Energy is redistributed. Music is energy. It just carries on. My music was very heavily influenced by my parents and by the music they brought to me, definitely. I mean, just some of those names. I mean, some of D'Angelo, obviously, but Angie Stone.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Angie Stone. The couple of her songs I play over and over and again, like an obsessed idiot.
Yeah, India Arie. I mean,
India Arie, my favourite of all time.
I feel like that pocket, are they called? Is it not Soul Quarians? I don't know what they're basically. Omar's part of it is. Omar, Erykah Badu, I think Bilal, Maxwell, Angie, like, they're basically like, it's a collective. I can't remember the name of it now.
I know what you mean. And actually, I was watching an interview with her on Vlad TV.
Yeah.
And she was talking about the difficulties because they had children together, and I don't think they've got a great relationship, her and D'Angelo. And she was talking about that time and how much she'd done. Similarly to you, actually, like that she was she was talking about what you've just said there. She was in a girl band and they'd done some music which was never really put out there, but she sort of said, basically, she was saying in her unequivocal manner that she feels like a lot of artists have ripped off the sounds that her and this band made,
right?
And they've not really credited her, which she was a bit disappointed. She was talking about Bruno Mars and a few of the others, and she was basically just saying with the interviewer, kind of, it's not right. Like, if someone's done something, at least credit them for influencing you.
Yep.
And although she's done some great work and everything, I think she felt a little bit hurt by the industry at times, which you can understand. But the likes of, I mean, you mentioned her earlier and I almost had a heart attack because India Arie is potentially, other than Beverly, one of my most favourite women that's ever walked planet Earth. And I don't care and it's the same with Luther Vandross. Like, I feel that they live within my heart, like a little cluster of them, and their music. I mean, there was a performance with Luther Vandross on Jules Holland, and the most perfect live performance I've ever seen in my entire life. And I listen to it all the time. And I think anyone around me who is unfortunate enough to be there, it goes up on full volume. I'm like that.
Deal with it.
I don't care. I love it so much. But those particular singers, and obviously Michael Jackson and all of that, and Prince and all of the obvious ones, and I'm sure for you as well, they have such, I don't think you can, it's the same with, I guess, times before. You can't replicate that, but we must redistribute that energy.
Yeah.
We must continue it and keep passing the baton on, because that what, I don't even know how to say this, but there's something, they call it soul music, but I think it goes deeper than that.
Yeah.
There's this almost ancestral feel to some of these songs.
Yeah.
Like it just goes back and back and back. There's no beginning and no end.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so important about this conversation as well, is it's not just about, oh, this was a guy from the 90s and the early 2000s that did some good music. The story that comes with this is always about authenticity.
Yeah.
and carrying on that legacy of such an important time, I think.
Yeah.
And you mentioned there about your dad being from, did you say North
Carolina? Yeah.
I mean, for you then, your ancestral history is really interesting, because you've got the Irish, English, and then that kind of.
Well, he's also part Cherokee.
Right.
So,
oh wow.
And I'm actually, I think my auntie's traced my mum's family tree back, but I'm really, really interested. And I'm going to do a DNA test or an ancestry, whatever. But I'm really interested to trace that back, because me and my brother, I remember we went when we were younger to like some reservations, I think in Tennessee, but I couldn't help but think, was it for show or was it legitimately my heritage?
Got you.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so I wasn't sure if it was just, I mean, obviously you are Native American.
Yes.
But is this for the tourists?
I hear
or
you.
Is this actually where you live? And
yeah, I get you.
So I would be really, really, my history fascinates me in general.
Me too.
But my own family history, I met my grandma and grandpa, I met them probably 2 or 3 times, but I was still very young. And I do remember my grandma made the most amazing fried chicken ever.
I mean, you never forget good food.
Ever. I'm sorry, no one else can compete. It's a fact. Well, they haven't so far. I might be surprised. But yeah, I would be really interested to kind of find out more about that side.
Oh, it's fascinating. I was watching, as I was falling asleep last night, not healthy, not advisable either, but I was on Instagram watching reels, as you do. And I was looking at, Andy Oliver was talking on,
Love Andy.
yeah,
Love
me too. She was talking about the death of her brother in a reel, that it's her and Lily Allen talking about it. And, it sent me on, and I feel really awful. Let me try and not ask the name of this girl, because it's Andy's daughter. And
Nikita.
I know that's it.
Keats,
I wanted to remember her name then. Yeah. They've done something where they've gone to Scotland.
Yep.
Ah, of course, you might know about this. And so I went through Makita's reels, and she's her dad's Scottish. Mm-hmm. So she was talking about, learning about her ancestry there and how beautiful it was, because she'd done the same with going to Antigua and finding out that she was Nigerian through her mum's side. And she said it was a lot, understanding her history, and then being mixed race and that sort of diversity. And she said, a lot of the mixed race kids that she knows have got Scottish heritage, but they've never really looked at that side of their heritage. And it's same with you, English, Irish, you've got this North Carolina and Cherokee and all of this. How amazing.
Yeah.
It's like we should all know more about that, shouldn't we?
Yeah, definitely. I think we were just saying earlier on, living in London, life is just so fast moving.
Yeah.
But I'm one of those people, like, when I stop, with the rare occasion I actually do switch off, that's when you start to sort of look inside and look, explore a bit more. Like, I'm not just here as a machine to earn money, spend money, make music, whatever. Like, there's more to me than that. And it fascinates me to find out more about that. But
and why not?
But not everyone's fussed.
Not everyone's fussed, but they should be. And I'll tell you why. And I never use the word should. I do, but I try not to. Because genetic expression is real. Like, we know from epigenetics that the history of who we are, it's all ancestral.
Yeah.
So for example, if you have got physical conditions or mental health conditions or whatever, you can trace it back through your genetic expression.
100%.
But not only that, the colour of your skin, your hair, your eyes, the way that you move, the way you express, the way you can sing, the way you might be good at sports, it's all coming from those ancestors. Yeah. So to be curious is to know yourself.
Absolutely.
And, we talk about authenticity. Well, surely that's about embracing that as well. It's not just being authentic with who you are as a person right now.
It's like what's made you and who's put that in you. Yeah. 100%.
And when you go back through those those tunnels of time, I think it just becomes more and more exciting, and you understand everything is a redistribution of energy.
Definitely.
Not just music, but ourselves. And so with all that in mind, first of all, before I let you go, I need to ask you, who's your favourite artist at the moment? The newer gang. Might be a difficult one to answer.
Who do I love right now? Kalani. I just love her. I'm a tone guy.
Yeah.
Like you can hit the top whatever note it is, but for me it's tone.
Yeah.
And delivery and like feeling and emotion.
Yeah.
And again, she's had her struggles. She's had. I think I migrated to her not because I've been through similar things, but I migrate to someone who's been through some shit.
Yeah.
And then just like diverted that energy and made something great from it.
Yes, I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. So Kalani, who else am I listening to right now? Do you know what? It's really bad. Like, because I DJ, I play old school R&B, hip hop, house and garage. So like, I'm just like, what have I actually listened to? There is a girlfriend of mine, Anna Pancaldi.
Oh.
So I run a night called The Jam with Nate James, which is like a platform for unsigned artists. Nice. Something I never had. Yeah. To do a showcase each month. They get a little payment. They get a contract. They get treated as a proper booking.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So if they haven't had that before. Anna Pancaldi and I have known each other for many years, and she has released this song called Before You. It's out now. I've literally messaged her. I think I've probably made up half of her streams. You should go and listen to that track.
Yeah, I will.
It is it's something otherworldly. Her vocal and the lyrics and what you feel in this song. And I messaged her probably on a weekly basis. I'm like, babe, I'm doing it again. I'm fangirling so hard. Aww. So Anna Pancaldi, she Before You. I mean, all of her stuff's amazing, but
How'd you spell her name?
Pancaldi.
Okay.
Pancaldi.
Nice.
If you think of Italian,
yeah,
I think it's Italian. But Before You, honestly, it is one of the most beautiful songs I've heard in the past probably 5-10 years.
I mean, that is a stamp of approval.
Yeah.
You can't really get better than that.
I played this to Paul, my film partner, the other day, my good friend, and I was like, he said, you can hear Adele, or you can hear, one of those big voiced divas singing it, but Anna's tone on it is just perfect. Honestly.
Is she doing, obviously she's probably having to do a lot of her work through socials and streaming and all that sort of stuff. So I guess for the listeners that are interested, they can find her on all of that, can they?
Yeah, you can. And she's performing at the Jam with Nate James on 17th of December.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So look, that's one to look out for.
Yes.
And that's why I'm asking, really, because you're in the biz, but you're also obviously got a great taste in music.
Thanks,
so, to ask you who's someone to look out for is quite important, I think.
Yeah.
And
I think, I actually get quite overwhelmed. I mean, Billboard actually said, recently, there's too much music.
There is a lot at the minute,
There was and I feel overwhelmed because as much as Spotify or whatever platform suggests this and I love the journey because I love to find new artists that the algorithm has given to me because of what I've just listened to. I do like that part of it, but also I like to make my own playlists. Yeah. And I like them to be in this order because they're in that order for a reason.
Yeah,
it's my journey that I've created. I don't need your AI or your DJ to switch it and shuffle it.
Yeah.
I get quite angry about these sort of things.
Well, most artists do actually. Yeah. So you're not the only one.
But I mean, aside from the pittance that we get paid from said platform.
Yeah.
I do. I hear a lot. I mean, we have 6 artists every month at the Jam. And they're artists that I have either been flagged like by friends, word of mouth, or I've just literally just been on Instagram or scrolling or whatever and just gone, and I just DM them and say, do you want to perform?
Do you know what's really powerful about that? And I think, it's really important to mention, because I've mentioned it a few times on various episodes actually, is the power of live music or live entertainment. Yeah. Because the more AI gets involved, which in some ways can be very, very useful, in others it takes away a lot from a lot of artists in particular, in creative industries, a lot. And that's the hardest hit, isn't it? So in terms of the most important thing in the world is, and we've lost it in incredibly so, youth clubs and community clubs and all of that. The most important thing is connection, community, and I think feeling a live experience, because you feel it in your bones.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that people are scared of is obviously the AI taking over, but I think what it will do is it will push people to go and see live more, because that's where it's real, and that's where you meet people, that's where you connect, that's where you make friends, that's where your community is, that's where you meet people that are like-minded. So in a way, spaces like that you're creating are more important than ever before.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, the AI conversation is such a grey area, because obviously, medical advances and, it's using it as a tool for good.
Yeah.
And I mean, that just everything should be used for good, for greater good. But I do feel, I was saying this the other day, as a songwriter, as a producer, or as an artist, if you have an AI that you want to use on your laptop and you tell it that you want it to write an anthemic chorus as is Adele or as is Lady Gaga, whatever, that it will do it for you.
Oh, it's scary.
So you could literally tell this thing to write the best pop song of all time, and then you can release it as your own work because you've programmed it. You've asked. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like you're taking away that enjoyment of writing a song, creating a piece of work. You're asking someone. I mean, I just feel like, is it going to make us lazy?
Well, can I add something to that? Because I think this is vital actually for people to know. We've spoken a lot today about, and me in particular being the OTT kind of girl I am, about having these people living in my heart, like this community of artists that will never know me, unfortunately for me, because I really want to know them. Some of them are dead and they're there.
Yeah.
And I feel that that's for one reason and one reason only, is that when they sing, sometimes I don't even know if they've written the song, but let's just say it's the delivery. Yeah. But to, even though they may not have written the song, and I think mostly the ones that we love have, the thing that I'm getting to here is that they feel the words. And when you are getting a computer programmed response from anything, I think you can tell. I write a book and I always say I'm really grateful, I'm really thankful to myself that I did it before AI was a thing, because it took 2 years. It's not the greatest book in the world, but what I can always say is that I did it. I didn't cheat. Now, I'm not saying I don't help with formatting. I don't use it to help with formatting things, because I do. It's quicker to format an idea, but I do fill in the gaps myself, because I do think people know me and they know whether that's my voice or not.
Yeah, of course.
They know whether it's my that they can feel your energy. So there's that. But also, when you write a song or a book or a poem,
it's not you.
I hope.
Go on.
I hope
not
the
you,
camera.
I promise.
I'm going to get the camera to do that.
Pan over to me. Just a little cheeky yawn.
And what we're going to do, I would love this for the trailer, is just to have my voice fading out, like you're like, oh, bore off.
Oh Lord, go on, carry on, please.
That's so funny. I love that just happened. I'm literally going to use that.
In your element about AI, go tell me. I was honestly listening. It just crept out of nowhere.
It's so funny. He has been up till 3 a.m. guys. I am interesting.
Working.
Yeah, working.
Yeah, literally. Go on.
But what I was trying to say is that what was I trying to say?
You were saying about using AI formatting, and using it to facilitate.
So facilitate. And I think there's this thing that goes on in the body, and it's a really important thing, which is when you are connecting something to your heart, so you're writing a song, you're actually in flow state. So for the person putting the music out there, you haven't had that experience. No. Like, you're literally robbing yourself of the experience of creativity. And I don't know who can deliver that from the heart. And that's the whole point, is that we're feeling these songs, because in one way or another, they're coming from the heart.
It'd be interesting to see if a song was written by an AI and then that artist went and performed it live.
Yes.
Would the feeling that was absent from the recording or the track,
I genuinely don't
be
believe
delivered on stage?
I don't think it could be. I don't think it could be.
Because I'm like, where are you getting the feeling from? If you didn't write it yourself, and it's not your experience, you just told something what to do, then how can you deliver that and make it believable? I
mean, look, you could sing a song that's somebody else's and you could sing it with full heart. But you sing your song, Is It In My Skin?
Yeah.
So you could sing, I know I've seen on your thing you did the George Michael song. Yeah. So you're doing that and everyone goes, yeah, we love this song. But then when you're singing your song, I know that we're going to get a different version of you. And that's the point. There's no harm in singing someone else's song.
No, of course. I love a good cover.
Of course. Yeah. But you're never, ever, ever going to feel that
no,
in the same way.
no.
You may have memories attached to it, but it's not yours. So, and I know George Michael didn't write his own music, you know, and I'm not saying that I didn't feel like
he actually did write and produce Freedom.
He did.
Yeah.
And he did write some of his songs, and he probably co-wrote and co-produced and all of that.
He had access to some of the greatest producers in the world.
He did.
He was George Michael.
He did.
Of course.
But again, George Michael's voice is one that I think you can feel. But what I think is the point here is that if you are an artist, be the artist.
Yeah.
And this is where I was saying for a music fan or from a theatre fan or a film fan, I want to see it live. And I recently got to see Beverly live at Northampton Durngate, and oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
she's a powerhouse.
I loved her anyway. I'm not going to lie.
I love you even more now.
Honestly. And then meeting her afterwards, I was like, you just did that. And I only met her because of James. I'm not trying to like name drop because it was only because of James that I met her. But she then afterwards was just like, cool, yeah, it's me, Beverly.
But also she's so calm and softly spoken, and she's just an amazing energy. But when she's on stage, she is full diva.
How on earth does that come out of anyone? And also, not that she hasn't done well, because she's done brilliant. She's worked with the best people in the world, obviously. But I always think, why isn't the world giving her more credit?
Yeah.
And again, she is not at all in any way egotistical at all.
Right.
So she won't think that way, because she's got a great life and she's done some great work, and as have you, and you know some great people. But you do think, how is that fair? You know, when you see someone on, let's say The Voice, and they're an amazing singer, and they don't go through, and then probably good for them because they end up doing something that's far greater. But I don't mean greater, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But you do think, how are these people that we've never heard before, and you've seen them on the TV, and you're like, wow, where have you been?
Yeah.
It's such a shame that there's not more of that.
I think that the sad fact about music in the industry today is that it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
You know, you could have someone who's got an okay-ish voice, who's got 5 million followers.
Yeah.
And someone who's got an incredible voice, has got 2,500 followers, will never see the light of day.
I know, it's so sad.
Unless, luck, the stars align, they know someone who knows someone, but I always say this, like for live shows and just in life in general, you don't know who you're talking to. You don't know who's in that room.
True.
And it's not about game face or putting on a facade.
Yeah.
It's more like, just be your best self.
Yeah.
As much as you can be.
Yeah.
And it's tiring,
Yeah, of course.
But if you're just being your truthful self, you don't know who's going to note that about you, whether you're a singer, just as a human being. Like, if you're in a room, enter the room, like, be that energy.
But look at what happened with your book.
Well, yeah,
that's exactly what happened.
Literally that on the balcony.
Yeah, you literally just went, oh, isn't it nice? And then someone said, I'm going to publish a book for you.
Yeah.
Because you were being you. Yeah. This is the whole point of what attracted me. Obviously, I would have had you on anyway, because I do like you. But I think that the more you were talking about, I was like, wow, this is the story that I want this podcast to be about. You could have been a serial killer before, but if you're telling your truth, I'm going to hear it, because there's an authenticity within it. I'm not comparing you to a serial killer, by the way. That was a terrible comparison.
No, that's fine. It's all right. To be fair, I was saying to Jerry the other day, like, how much, like, Ted Bundy tapes and like serial killer, real life crime documentaries that we've watched together. Like, do we have a problem here?
Well, I've definitely got a problem if you have. I love that stuff.
Yeah. I just find it so, again, getting inside the mindset of people in general, not just serial killers. Yeah. I like to, it's all well and good to meet someone and to chat, but like, I want to understand you. I want to know you.
Me too. And
well, I mean, this is your job, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's a blessing and a curse, to be fair, because obviously you go to the places that you don't always want to go to with people. But on that note, and this will be the last, because I know you've got things to do.
Oh, you're fine.
But I just really feel this is quite an important statement to make, because we talked about Fast Love, the chapter, and we talked about chemsex and the darker side of what would be considered that culture. Yeah. But when I talk to my friends or clients, I've got to say this, is that the darkness of human being is part of being human being. Yeah. Like there is, and to be clear here, I'm not advocating for doing things that you shouldn't do, but why is it that so many people are, paedophiles? Why is it that so many people are murderers and rapists? Why is it so many people that are addicted to this really sort of dark spectrum of things that they get up to and they don't tell anyone about? And I'm not saying that these things are okay. What I'm saying is there's a lot of people that are paedophiles, murderers, rapists. They might enjoy controlling and abusing people. And we know that there's a lot to be said for brain development and trauma, and everything really comes down to trauma and genetics.
Yeah.
But equally, one of the things that I think is really important is to explore that side of yourself. And although I'm not suggesting that either of us are dark people all the time, when you're drawn into those documentaries, that you are maybe thinking, oh God, am I a bit, you said it there, is there something wrong? No. What it is that there's a dark side to everyone and everything. And that's why even in the music industry, you've got like really hardcore, like Slipknot, all that. But these people are actually expressing in a healthy way, anger or whatever it is. You know, Stephen King had some really dark thoughts, but he put them on paper and into books, and same with horror movies and stuff. And I think there's a line, I suppose, of interest and obsession, and that's the same in anything, whether it's relationships, horror movies or whatever. But I think the creative space, bringing it back to kind of what you do, is the perfect place to express and to explore yourself, because you get it all out, you can make a really beautiful music or film or whatever from it, but you're also saying, it's what you were saying about the quotes on Instagram earlier, you're also sharing a bit of realness as well. And this is where I think creative spaces are underrated, and Northampton University are going through some financial cuts, and guess what's going first? It's the creative subjects, and yet it's such a profoundly important part of the human experience.
I found it really interesting during lockdown when we saw that a certain chain of pubs was given like 50 million.
Absolutely.
And the arts was given nothing.
Yeah.
Pretty much. But I'm like, you're sat as an MP, as a person.
Yeah.
In your house, you're watching movies.
Yeah.
You're reading books.
Yeah.
You're listening to Bach, or you're listening to whoever. So you're telling me that pub is more important to you than what gets you through your day.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest.
And what goes on in the pubs? you know?
Exactly.
So I think, again, alcohol, poison.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the odd drink here and there is a problem, but what makes me go to a pub, I'll tell you now, is music.
Atmosphere, and your friends,
community.
Yeah.
So when you take away those elements of nightlife, the DJs and all that, really, what's the point? You know, what's the point? So I think that, broadly speaking, when we talk about creativity, we're also talking about human expression, and we're talking about a form of therapy, because for those that don't go to
100%.
therapy, you know, where do we get our ideas from? Reading, poetry, music, film. And not everyone wants to go to therapy, and neither should they have to feel they should go to therapy. If you want to, great. I'd encourage you to do it. There's so many different ways you can explore yourself, but we all start really with the creative stuff, don't we? Children, that's how they express themselves early on. You know, they draw the sky as purple, and that's okay, because that's how they see the world, through their lens at that point.
I think, going back to what you were saying earlier, I think there's so much beauty in imperfection.
Yeah.
And I think that when you embrace, what we've been saying, the darker side, when you embrace the things that are not necessarily viewed as your best traits, shall we say?
Yes, a good way of putting it. Yeah.
You know, I think that, you know, we are made up of so many emotions, so many thoughts, so many feelings. And I think that it's, you know, it's not always going to be sweetness and light.
No, it's not.
But I think that if you can embrace and understand and live through and endure the imperfections, that's a beautiful thing. And also, you were just saying about therapy, like writing songs, making music, creating something is therapy. It literally is that. Like for me, like writing songs, I get stuff out that I may not even be ready to talk about.
Absolutely.
But it's like, I remember that when I was younger, like, and actually when me and Jared first dated a while ago, like I would send him a song that I listened to that was my way of showing him how I felt. Like,
such a good way to do it.
But I could just have said it.
Yeah.
But I feel like maybe the mask of the song I sent is enough of a message for him to understand what I'm feeling without having to say it or have an awkward conversation or whatever it might be. So I definitely feel, and I said this again to my students, I'm like, you know, when you're writing songs, even if you don't release them, it's sort of like journaling. Even if you record an EP, a bunch of songs on your laptop, just on GarageBand or whatever it might be, you don't have to release that. But I guarantee you, writing those lyrics, recording those harmonies, that song, is going to make you feel such a sense of release.
So does.
You know, so definitely that, yeah.
And actually, as a therapist, there's 3 things I do, which is EMDR, hypnotherapy, and psychotherapy, so the talk therapies, mixed modality. But when I set programs for people, which I always do because I'm obsessed with putting things together and creating things, there's 2 things I say we do, and I'm writing another book called Letters to Myself. It's about writing to yourself. Yeah.
The first line of one of my songs is called "I wrote a letter." It's called "Future Self," and it starts, "I wrote a letter to myself."
No way.
Literally, I wrote a letter to myself. Yeah, that's weird that you just said that. That's literally the opening line of the second single from the new album. Yeah,
we are
so same page.
Same page, babe.
We're in tune.
We are, and there's something really profound about it.
Yeah.
But also, there's another little exercise I get them to do called rewrite the story. So I use writing with them as a part of their recovery, because we could sit and talk for 4 hours. I could do some hypnosis with you, which is very creative. I lean on Milton Erickson's work, which is he was a psychiatrist and a hypnotherapist. It was all about storytelling.
I've never been hypnotized. I would actually love to.
It's so good. It's so good. And I blend it with EMDR, which is all about the brain and bilateral work on the brain and how we store information and emotions. It's a beautiful process, and I never do anything by the book. I like to be creative with the process of therapy. And that's why I say it to people all the time. It's why I'm drawn to creatives, because I've got that side of me. I just happen to put it into the therapeutic space. But I see the value of, you know, artists that paint, that make, that do music, that write. It's so beautiful. And there's 2 things then to wrap up. One is RuPaul does this on Drag Race. What would you say to your younger self? Because again, inner child stuff's really powerful. But also, what would be the message for someone that's starting off, maybe not in music, but certainly starting off in a journey of creativity that doesn't feel that they can be themselves yet? So first, what would you say to your younger self?
I'm actually just like thinking of the lyrics of the song now. I guess it sounds really cliche, but you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
You're going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
That is literally what I wrote the song about. For me, like, my journey as a gay man, it's just been a purely internal battle, not understanding myself, trying to understand these feelings, these emotions, who I'm drawn to. It was never anything, you know, it wasn't my parents, wasn't religious. There was nothing that was instilled in me. I mean, no, it was media. It was scaremongering.
Yeah.
It was, you know, gay is wrong. And, you know, in the 80s, gay equals AIDS. And
the AIDS thing was a massive problem. Yeah.
Horrific.
Yeah.
So I think, you're going to be okay.
And just on that, before you say the next bit, I want to kind of say this for people that don't know. AIDS and HIV are very, very different things. And now the drugs for HIV just mean that as you're taking them, you are no longer HIV positive. You don't test positive.
Yeah, you're undetectable. Yeah, so if someone is on the medication to be undetectable, and someone who is doesn't have the virus, they're on PrEP. Basically, there is no way that it can be transmitted.
That's and I wanted to say that because some people won't have heard that, and if they have heard that, they haven't heard it enough. And also to say that about 5 years ago, I read an article. It was really interesting. It was by a doctor who was talking about what's more dangerous these days, HIV or diabetes. And he said, without a shadow of a doubt, it's diabetes. People are not paying attention to their own health, and diabetes is the biggest killer. So because of the medication with HIV, I wanted to mention that as we mentioned the AIDS thing, because I think it's so important that people are aware of that. And as long as the person with HIV positive is taking the medication and doing what they're supposed to do, but also it's like, if you're scared and you happen to think, oh, what if I've got HIV? Go and get tested. It's not what it was back then.
I think, but going back to what you said about the most dangerous thing, I mean, I wouldn't say dangerous, but I think people not knowing their status is extremely dangerous. You know, again, in my single days, you know, I would go and get tested regularly. You know, sometimes I picked up something, but not that, you know. I'm negative. But just, I know, and like a lot of people I spoke to and friends were like, I'm so scared. I don't. It's the fear of what if it's not even just about HIV.
No,
like anything.
Yeah.
You know, any STD or STI, whatever.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, it's that like, oh God, I've got to take antibiotics. I've got to have a jab. I've got whatever. You know, I think it's that fear. But just go.
Just go.
You know?
And also, it's not, despite the message in the 80s, it's not exclusive to the gay community.
No, it's not.
So this message that we're talking about getting tested is for everybody.
Yeah.
Just to be very, very clear.
Yes, 100%.
And on that, now that's finished. On the
Other question.
Yeah,
What
so
was
it was basically a young guy, perhaps a gay guy, perhaps not, but that's starting off in the journey of music or any form of creativity that's perhaps a little bit scared about that journey because it's not the easiest path to take, I would imagine, in
God,
so
no.
many ways.
Yeah.
What would your advice be to them?
I'm trying to think how to put it. And again, I don't want to sound cliche. It's hard. There's no doubt about it. Perseverance. I was saying to someone literally last night, I was like, for every say 10 or 100 emails you send to someone, with whatever you're doing, in any industry really, you're likely going to get like maybe 5, 6 responses.
Yes,
and they might not even be positive responses.
Yeah.
I think, do your research. When I was growing up, like I would look at the CD sleeve and I'd be like, right, who A&R'd this? Who played bass? Who wrote it? Like I literally did my research, and I've actually got to work with some of the people that I actually researched about when I was 16, 17 years old. Like I'm very blessed in that respect.
Brilliant.
But I knew who I was going for.
Yeah.
I knew who I was looking for.
Yeah.
And I think whether you're a producer or, in whatever capacity, in whatever industry you're in, just know your shit and then apply that knowledge and, soak in like a sponge everything around you and the people around you. And like I said earlier, when you arrive.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's not about dressing, over the top or whatever, but like your energy is what you bring into the room.
True.
And people are drawn to that, as we said before.
True.
So if you walk in there with a face like a slapped ass, no one's going to want to talk to you. If you walk in there, even if you're having a shit day, like I've had this, I'm sure you have.
Yeah. Game
face.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if I had a really awful sleep or I'm hungover or I'm tired or whatever it might be, I switch it on.
Yeah.
Because you don't know who's going to be there.
No, you don't. And also, I think, the game face is also a version of you.
Yeah.
So when we talk about authenticity and putting your game face on, it is a version of me. Like one of the ways that I deal with having a bad day is to go, right, Ella, let's get the other face on now. That slapped ass thing is not working for you.
No, it's not. It's really not winning. Yeah.
So I think it is still, you're tapping into all the different parts and all the different versions that exist.
Mm-hmm.
And you are right about doing your research. The other day, I decided to go down the tunnel of inviting certain guests on.
Uh-huh.
And I wanted to have, and I do want to have still, Louis Theroux. So
wow.
I reached out to his people and they very politely got back to me and basically said he hasn't got any plans to go on any podcast, but we'll keep you on the list. And I thought you probably won't, but Louis, if you're watching, I'm still waiting.
Yeah.
Because I just love Louis Theroux. And I think, from a point of view of the dream to interview, he's interviewed all the weird and wonderful.
Oh God, yeah.
I'd love to do Louis.
Yeah.
To take that whichever way you want.
No pun intended. Yeah.
So I think just go down that. Don't be afraid to do that. Like you say, you worked with some of the most amazing people that you were researching. Don't be afraid to do it. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Yeah. Even though I was kind of rejected, the fact that they replied, his team, is great.
I think just and don't be discouraged. You are. If you're DMing someone for whatever it might be, you could be one of thousands of messages they're getting.
Yeah.
I mean, persevere.
Yeah, just keep going.
Keep banging on the door.
Exactly. The fact
until they answer. If it's a negative answer, if it's like no, whatever, at least they've answered. And you're on the radar.
My mate Scott, New York, worked with Pharrell's BBC, his clothing line, and worked with Pharrell for that reason. And it was the same story. He knocked on the door, knocked on the door, knocked on the door, knocked on the door. Every time they said no, he turned up again. And he got to do that work. And, he loves fashion and he loves music and all of that stuff. So there's always that story.
Yeah.
Your story is one of those stories. Yeah. And I think that gives us hope and it gives us faith. And it makes sure, like you say earlier with the tear-jerking moment, someone somewhere is watching and it's incredibly important. Yeah. So make sure that you said something about, and I said it earlier and I'll say it again, and it's a great way to finish actually, that you're not necessarily doing this to inspire people. I would change that frequency and do it only to inspire people, because if that's your intention, that's definitely what's going to happen.
Yeah, 100%.
I want to thank you for reaching out to me and for coming.
Thank you.
Particularly because you're so fucking tired.
Do I look tired?
No,
just
you must be. You are glowing, but you must be, because you have been on it Full stop.
I have. This is now going to be my 4th of 4 gigs this evening.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow is just day off.
And you're going to sleep.
I'm going to sleep like a lot. I love my bed.
Yeah, me too.
Like, I love the practice of sleep.
Me too.
It's an event for me.
Me too.
Like, when I look at my bed, I mean, Jared's obviously in it. But like, when I'm at home, look at my bed, I'm like, hi, friend. Like, I just full head first dive
It's
in.
my favourite activity.
Yeah.
Nothing else beats it.
That's the thing. Like, sleep is what we have to do, but like, it's actually a thing for me. It's an activity.
Yeah, for me too.
I
would choose that over pretty much anything.
Yeah, I don't want to see people. I'm just going to order food
and sleep,
watch TV, and sleep. Yeah, 100%.
Great.
All that.
Now, you're going to Ipswich to DJ. So
I am.
I can't even keep you, which is really sad because I will keep you.
I can't remember what time my train is, to be fair. But
well, you've got to remember that, especially at the moment the transport system is broken.
Yeah, I should probably. Yeah, it really is. That storm Bert did a number, didn't it?
Honestly, the Manchester experience I had just 2 days ago was probably one of the worst of my life.
Yeah.
I was so traumatized. I've got PTSD now. It was a terrible day of travel.
Oh, no.
It really was.
And Manchester's not that far, is it, from here?
No, it only takes about 2.5 hours, really.
Right,
you go Northampton to Rugby, just for the Northampton guys,
of course, yeah.
and then Rugby to Manchester straight. You know the film Planes, Trains and Automobiles?
Yeah.
It was worse than that.
I end up on a bike.
Yeah.
Just that last stretch.
Honestly, I would have done the poor guy when I got there. I was a deranged mess. And he literally looked at me, the guy that I was interviewing, as if to say, I've made the biggest mistake of my life.
Like,
You're a
what
psychopath.
just arrived on my doorstep?
Yeah. What are we doing? But it all went well in the end.
Good.
And again, thank you. Thank you. Because I've got to say this just on the dream thing. And I know I'm rubbish at wrapping things up, but when I was listening to your music, there's no way on earth I would have ever thought I'd be sitting interviewing you. Seriously, you were of a time of good music.
I want to thank you as well, because I've not really talked about what we talked about today in any capacity. And it's just been, I said to my other half, I was on the phone to him before I arrived, and I was like, I'm really nervous. I don't know what you're going to ask me, but I like that.
Yeah.
And I like that, there wouldn't be any curveballs. I'm an open book, as we said before, but it's just really nice to feel. I mean, the set is incredible. For those of you who can't see where we are, it's amazing. But I just felt very safe, very comfortable, very at ease, and just so thank you for giving me a place to come and chat about what I've been up to and what I'm trying to do and the journey to date. So
you're literally a dream. You really are, and I mean that. Like, it's the biggest privilege to do this. This is my hobby, obviously.
Yeah.
And to be able to have this as a hobby. I mean,
pretty cool.
It's the coolest hobby ever, and I'm very, very grateful. And I am going to look out for everything you're doing, and hopefully our paths will cross again. I mean,
definitely.
That's my hope.
We've swapped
not
numbers.
Yours. We have swapped numbers.
I'm an avid WhatsApp voice noter, so you're going to be getting a lot of that over Christmas, New Year, live shows with the tour. Like, you're coming. 100%.
I am 100. I don't care what's happening.
Done.
I am there.
Okay.
Thank you, Nate.
No worries.
Oh, my heart is so full right now. I cannot tell you. I cannot tell you.